Near, 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 rip a hole in the sun. Welcome to Cum Paude. Why would you cum soft when you can cum louder? Yeah.
Hello and welcome, sports fans, to week 15. This is a Cum Paude Laude Paude production here. We're making up for lost times at the What Studio production of Cum Paude. Didn't have a lot of shows this year, but we're going to try and get one out here today, maybe tomorrow, and maybe another one Thursday, because we're going to do a special show today. We're going to be talking about the playoffs because we're in the playoffs. I'm talking about playoffs here. It's week 15. We just wrapped up last night with some great Monday night action. We got to see the stand-in shake up just a little bit there with Jamar Chase's big night. So we get to finalize what the final seeds are. That doesn't mean that's what the playoff matchups are going to be, because this year we have introduced that the top three seeds get to choose their first round opponent. Can choose one of the top three as well if you want to just go ahead and take somebody out in the first round. We'll see if that happens. Our main man, Scooter Top G, got that number one spot, gets the glory, gets the ability to make that choice, has until Wednesday night. It's going to be tomorrow night. We're filming here today on a Tuesday. That's going to be needed by 8 p.m. on Wednesday. So a little bit of a chance to see how waivers go through, if there's any kind of strategy through the waiver wire, maybe get some early injury reports. I know Scooter is very in tune with that to make his decision on who he'd like to face off with, and ultimately see, does he make that choice to knock out the last year's winner, the Pubic Medusas, who did finish in second and would get to choose his opponent should Scooter not pick him first overall. But there's plenty of other teams in the C, between the Cum Sales finishing in third, the Dame Judy's. Let me not skip to myself. The Hammy Ham Fists dropped down in the fourth. The Dame Judy's in fifth. Tommy with the Big Dak Prescott, also known as Haktua, finishing there in sixth. The Dogecoin Doge City in seventh, and Patricio locks up that eighth slot with a big, massive win, taking home that week 14 total points overall, $60 prize. Congratulations to all the teams that made the playoffs. We're going to jump in this week. We're jumping in. We're going to do a focus. We're going to talk about the top three teams, maybe tomorrow the next three, and maybe the next day the next two a little bit. But we want to do a highlight here on our top three, our podium finishers to the standings. So let's jump into Scooter. Let's talk about his season. 12-2. Arrivederci Keelitz heard at the beginning of the season predicted that Scooter would finish 12-2. Can you imagine that? Arrivederci finally got one right. Finishes 12-2. The total points leader, makes sense. Third least against. So not a lot of teams brought their A game, or Scooter just came out just knocking doors down and blowing people up. I guess that doesn't really contribute to points against overall, but not people didn't really bring their A game against Scooter either. So not to downplay a 12-2 season. That was a great season and blew everybody else out when it comes to total points. When you're talking about that, 140 points per game on average, that's massive. 140 points per game. Average margin of victory for those 12 games, 36 points. Winning by a large margin. Some of that was contributed by a 115-point victory over Marty, John's Bussy, 69-point victory over Brian, a 61-point victory over All Hail ESPN. Those are, in case you didn't know, our 14th place, 12th place, and 13th place teams. The bottom three, Scooter just took it all out on them. Just made sure they knew where they belong. And the other big margin of victory was by 54 points against the Pubic Medusas, our back-to-back reigning champion here, who finished second overall. So massive 140 points per game, 36 points of margin of victory. Let's see how their season went, though. They started 4-0, off to a big start. That was as predicted, but then took two consecutive losses. Took a loss to Doge City, took a loss to Cum Sale, two playoff teams. Took those losses by 4 points in both games. So when we're talking about margin of victory, we should also talk about margin of loss. Lost by 4 points in each of those games. So there's a very easy way that Scooter could have been 14-0 this year. Now, it didn't dive into the wins, margin of victory, or how tight some of those margins were in some of those wins. There were a couple of close matchups. I think there was like a three-pointer here and there that Scooter did edge somebody to completion there to get that done. But then, 4-0 start, drop two straight, finishes 8-0. to finish 12-2. Very, very incredible season from Scooter, deserving that number one spot with all the points being put up. And then, out of nowhere, makes a big trade right here towards the end of the season. He's seeing a lot of other teams shift around, coming for him, really sees that, hey, we've got to tool up to be able to compete with this guy that's putting up 140 points per game, and goes out and does a little bit of a swap-a-roo. Swaps out CeeDee Lamb, who doesn't have a great consistent quarterback due to the Dak Prescott injury. So goes and gets Justin Jefferson, the Jets, who had a couple of down weeks here recently, but jumps back big time here in Week 14. So showing instant dividends. We hadn't seen Scooter really move draft picks yet. He liked to hold on to those. He was always first, second, third in his spot, no matter what, for the past 3 years. But he went ahead and he got rid of his first rounder, imagining that if he wins it all, that'll be a 114, and swap that out with the tradee, the trader with Scooter here was Flaming John Aria, and that he had the 201 essentially. So a little bit of a swap there, swapping one place for the other while swapping assets in CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. Great trade, even trade, already paid, looking like it's paying dividends for Scooter. So great move. Congrats to you, trying to make sure that, people aren't tooling up around you, and you can make sure that you've got the tools as well. So big move there. Congrats, Scooter. It's a big win. We're very excited to see who you select for your first round opponent. Speaking of which, could be a possibility. Finishing second this year is the Pubic Medusas in the regular standings, back-to-back champion. We knew that this team is going to be good, continue to be good. They're starting to age a little bit, but that's okay. Aging players still put up points. They're reliable for the most part. We saw some injuries this year with Mike Evans going down, a little bit of some flex plays that had to happen throughout this year. And, the team still finished 10-4, an incredibly respectable year, finishing second in total points overall, fifth least points against. So another little trend there, second points overall, but fifth least points against, 126 points per game. Not the 140, but 126, very, very strong. We always say 100 points is the minimum. You start to get into the 110s, 120s. That's when if you can put that together, that's probably going to mean a victory throughout the regular season. But we're not in the regular season anymore. So I'd say you're probably going to need that 126 to make sure that you're going to get a playoff victory or higher. Average margin of victory, 32. So another, there were a couple blowouts here and there. But a really strong margin of victory for the 10 games, for the 10 wins that there were. So this team started 7-0, looking like they're just going to run it back all over again until they hit the buzzsaw that was Scooter Top G. Scooter did a demolition of El Jefe here with a 54-point victory, really shook the tree a little bit, maybe shook some nerves, and, they go 7-1 from there. Get a few more victories, and then they finished the season, the last 5, 1-4. Finished the season 1-4. Took some late losses there. Just took a loss in the repeat of the championship from last year, Medusas versus Beth's Healthy Twins there, managed by Patricio. And, finished a little bit on a limp and not feeling so high on the team, but still got strong bones, can still put out that starting lineup. And that's what matters in fantasy football, is that starting lineup. We're in the end game now, so no more trades. But this team did make a trade, made a big splash in week 9, coming off of a big week from Derrick Henry. Moved on Derrick Henry, swapped out to David Montgomery and several picks with Dame Judi Dench. And immediately went from that 126 points a game down to 117 points per game. So might have sacrificed 9 points per game in that trade. We'll see how that affects the playoffs. David Montgomery has been scoring very well since that trade has happened, and should continue to do so in that fantastic Detroit Lions offense. Also sold Travis Kelce, getting rid of some of that age, preparing for the future. And immediately picked up Juwan Johnson, who has bounced around many teams here, drafted in the inaugural rookie draft by yours truly, but made it back to the Medusas. He had been on the roster previously. He's been on a few teams' rosters this year, but immediately scores here this week. So it could be a good fill-in with Kelce not necessarily having that big year that everybody's used to. So a couple of late trades. All losses this year, the 4 losses were to playoff teams. So no bad losses for this team as they move into the playoffs. So we'll see if Scooter does not select the Pubic Medusas in week one, or week one of the playoffs, round one, that he's kind of toying around with doing, then Medusa's going to get his selection of whoever Scooter does not pick in the playoffs. And that leaves us with number 3. We're going to wrap the show up today with third place, and that is the Cum Sales. Cum Sale Away finished the season 10-4. Arrivederci Kilotur predicted this team to finish 2-12. Missed that one just a little bit. And big game last night from Jamar Chase. Harry puts it out there into the universe that he's going to finish with 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and score over 28 points. And he does just that. He's 2 touchdowns. I think he had like $180, several receptions. So Cum Sale edges Harry to completion there and steals away that third slot. So Cum Sale will potentially, if not selected by the 1 or 2 teams, gets to pick the opponent in round 1. So let's see how the Cum Sale got there. 5th total points. That's good. That's solid. It's top 8. That's playoffs. That makes sense. 6th least points against. Another theme with the top 3 there, that they didn't have a lot of teams necessarily scoring against them. 6th, you're starting to get into the middle ground there. 5th, same with Medusa, starting to get in the middle ground there a little bit. But 121 points per game for this team. That's a reminder, Medusa 126. Scooter 140. So you continue to drop off there from the top notch, but still 121 points per game. That's what you want to see from a playoff team. And see how that works out. Average margin of victory 31.6. Had some big margins there against some teams throughout the year, so that kind of inflates that. But key wins this year. Really cool here. Beats the Birdman do. Scooter Topchi beats the Pubic Medusas. So has in the regular season beaten number 1 and beaten number 2. Hey, maybe don't select Cum Sale for either of those teams in week 1, or knock them out. Get that revenge. You took them down in the regular season. Let's knock them out of the playoffs immediately. We'll see how that goes. But losses, again, this team 10-4 took 4 losses. The 3 losses were against playoff teams. The other loss was with John Wilkes Tooth, a team that at the beginning of the year was looking very promising. Chris Godwin was putting up fantastic numbers. The injury really hurt the Wilkes Tooth. Wilkes Tooth showed in week 14, put up 140 points there, a decent score. So no shame in losing to a non-playoff team there. Wilkes was the first team out of the playoffs. So a good run by Cum Sale, putting it together, stealing away that third slot, getting the advantage to select opponent with whoever is left available after the top 2 pick. And, the difference here, we're talking about predicted 2-12 with the team they had to the team they built throughout the year. Fantastic. This is probably going to take 20 more minutes to talk through this, but draft day traded 2 first-round picks for the 104. Who did he get? Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is a leading tight end, leading scorer, tight end, outscoring many other skilled position players, doing great work. Worth it. Great move. Next move, Jonathan Brooks for Jaden Reed and Keaton Mitchell. Jonathan Brooks was a stash coming off that ACL. Got his chance here towards the end of the season. That was going to be like a good late bloomer, maybe get some really great points in Carolina there to help push this team along to finish up the regular season. And then in the playoff runs, unfortunately, Jonathan Brooks has torn his ACL. No rating on that trade. You can't plan for those injuries. It was a good trade. Jaden Reed's had a great year, except for last week. It was pretty terrible for a lot of people. Thanks, Jaden. But John Brooks is going to be there maybe next year. It was a late injury, so we'll see if he can cobble something together for 2025. That could be a 2026 stash. Probably the biggest trade here. There's some other names to come, but Sam Darnold for Rondale Moore in a 2027 third. This was a trade with Jumbo Ween Kinnears. I'm going to use that team name because I love it. It now goes by Genocide. But Sam Darnold has really taken the Cum Sale to the next level with the amazing season the Vikings are having. Incredible week last week, sparking at the right time. We'll look to keep that going, but Caleb Williams just didn't come out of the gate doing what folks expected him to do. Maybe he'll get better in future years, but great to have Sam Darnold in that trade to be leading the Cum Sales into the playoffs here. Great trade. Talk about the big names, though. Jamar Chase. We already mentioned how Jamar was the key factor here to get him into that third slot. Traded Sam Laporta, 2 Laporta potties. and a first round, and Kev Doge's second rounder of 2026, I believe. So big splash there to get Jamar Chase paid off. Jamar is by far wide receiver one this year, just catching everything, tons of receptions, tons of yards, getting the looks for touchdowns. Great move there. Another move that has ended up paying off quite well. It's been great insurance, especially with the Jonathan Brooks injury, but Devontae Adams and Nick Chubb and a 2027 first. This was in a three-way trade between Dame Judy, Marty McFly, and the Cum Sale. Ends up, getting that and giving up Trey Benson, 2025 first and a 2027 first. So able to get Devontae and Chubb in, who are going to be clicked right into that roster here going into the playoffs. Devontae has started to do well here with Aaron Rodgers after shaking off some early cobwebs, but put up a good showing last week and looking good. So this is another strong roster here, worked hard to get here. Did a lot of moves throughout the season, has always been the grease of the wheels in this fantasy football league. And, congrats for the struggle for 3 years of tanking, rebuilding, trading draft picks. And, if you look at the team now, there's one draft pick on that team. I believe it's a 2027 first that came in that three-way trade. It's the only draft pick that this team owns. And the last note that we have for this team is just they've been one of the defense streamers. Not a lot of teams have done that. They've rostered two defenses, but this team has been an ad drop defense streamer, and it is the Miami Dolphins. If you look at this team's transactions, it's add Dolphins, drop Dolphins, add drop Dolphins kind of thing. So loving the Miami Dolphins defense here to take them into the playoffs. That's Week 15 Tuesday edition. We'll see if we can get a Wednesday edition in here and talk about the next three teams that have made the playoffs. No promises, but I'd like to get that done for y'all because we've missed quite a few opportunities throughout this year to bring the content. I know everybody's been wanting it, and I like this format. I'm kind of feeling good about doing these showcases of teams, and I'm excited to talk about the playoffs. It's really great time of year, fun. I can't believe it's already here. It's already disappearing on us, but it's going to be a great run. We've got 8 great solid teams. All should be matched up very well with each other. And hopefully it's some exciting outcomes. So we'll see you again tomorrow. And then we'll get to hear from Scooter by Wednesday. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., we'll make his first round opponent selection. All righty. With that, they say good night, Fermi. Good night, Fermi.
Thank you for listening to the official podcast of the Public Honors College Fantasy Football League. Cum quickly, cum often, and cum loud.